Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Veil, a podcast in which I interview very interesting Muslims about topics that we think will benefit you, inshallah. Today I am with Zainab. Assalamu alaikum, Zainab.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Sumaya, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm great. You and I just had a conversation on your podcast about 2 weeks ago, and it was an incredible conversation because you have such a gift in terms of asking good questions, mashallah. So I was looking forward to talk to you again. Today I will be the one asking the questions, inshallah. So Zainab, you are a Muslim pre-marriage coach, and Allah knows how much we need people doing premarital help in the community at the moment. I'd love for you to start by telling us a little bit more about what you do and who you are.
Of course, of course. And as you already said, Sumaya, I loved having you on the podcast, and I'm so excited for this episode. I have no idea where this episode is going to go. This is going to be super organic, so I'm very curious to see what actually comes out. But just as a brief introduction, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My name is Zainab. I'm a British Somali feminine energy coach. And what that means, because it can feel a bit fluffy, but what that actually means is that I really teach women who are stuck in their masculine zone. These are women who have built their careers. These are women who are super highly educated, who literally started from the bottom, having immigrant parents, not knowing exactly where they can go, trying to make their parents proud. And then now they are getting questioned left, right, and center of when are you going to get married? Why are you not married? And you're just like, well, I mean, I have these masculine traits. And now when I go on social media, like, I don't know what to do. I know I'm masculine, but I don't know how to go into my feminine without losing who I am. Right. So I speak to these women because that's exactly who I was. And I speak about this on my podcast. I literally had this. So now, like, I went from being in that masculine zone, not knowing how to really embody my femininity without losing who I was. And then I finally did it after half a decade of struggling. And I documented the whole thing on my podcast. So, what I do essentially, if I really cut it down to like one sentence, is I teach women how to speak to men properly, the speaking aspect, because that is what will help you get embodied. And I don't think there's enough people who teach you actually how to speak. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's what I do.
Definitely, there's not enough people. You and I are doing very similar work apart from the fact that my work is not necessarily focused on marriage and helping people get married. However, subhanAllah, a lot of my clients have been able to get married after doing feminine energy healing. And I have so many questions for you. I want to start with what does it mean to be stuck in your masculine zone?
Okay. Um, let's define masculine first. Um, I subhanallah I would just want to plug this one lovely lady called the Sacred Space Mentor. I've had her on my podcast a couple of few times, and I've asked her this because she has a beautiful definition. She calls masculine energy. So if you think about masculine energy as 100% masculine, like there's no balance, it's just you're 100% masculine, then you're just focused, movement, rage. Like those are the three keywords. You're very focused, you're go-getting 100%, you're very active with your movement, like you're constantly on the go, hustling, you don't stop, you're constantly moving, fidgeting, right? Doing the next thing. I can't sit still, I need to do something else. And then rage comes from just not being able to fully explore your emotions. So you're always just angry, right? That's 100% masculinity. And that's what we know as toxic masculinity. But then when you actually come a bit away from that, you can see elements already of what I spoke about, like not being able to sit down, not being able to let the flow, like be in a flow state, right? That's masculine energy as well. Now, as a woman, I want to make it clear and highlight the fact that we are designed to be in our flow. We are designed to actually be in places where we can be sit still and just enjoy the moment. Yet we get put in these masculine spaces where you have to be in control. You have to do things. You just have to go, 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 go. Right? So being stuck in that masculine energy is basically being stuck in a place of control.
Okay, so that's for the unhealthy side of the masculine energy. And I think it's so important to note that there is a healthy side to it and an unhealthy side to it, the wounded or the shadow side. And it's the same thing for the feminine. And the reason why I'm saying that is because when you and I had that podcast episode a few weeks back and we started posting content about it, some women would react to me talking about the masculine energy, saying, why is it so bad to be in your masculine energy, to be able to take care of yourself, to be ambitious, to have a job? And so what would you answer to these women who are confused because they were raised to be in their masculine?
Subhanallah. Well, I'm here to say, like, I get a lot of women say this as well. Like, when you see what feminine energy is, and you're being told, oh, you have to not be doing, you have to get out of this masculine energy, or you need to let go of control, and it's hard. And you just like, well, I like masculine sports. I love doing leadership. I love doing all these things, but I can't, you're telling me right now that I have to let go of all these things, subhanAllah. Like, the essence of femininity and the beauty of it is that we have hormones, extra hormones compared to men. In order to really do the things that you want 24/7, you would have to lose a lot of your hormones. And I just want you to take a second and really think about that, because it's not something that we have, it's in our control. It's really not. We have our cycle, and with our cycle, throughout the month, things change. It's just a biological standpoint. Like, you can't actually argue with this. Things change. And as they change, we have to really welcome those changes in our body. And as we do that, we recognize, well, I don't feel like I can keep controlling. I need to relax. Or I need someone to take over. I'm feeling quite down today. Or I need to listen to my body. I'm feeling like I'm going through a tough time, because you are. You really are going through a tough time 24/7, right? Learning to actually let go of those things is not the same as abandoning the things that you love, but it's just recognizing that my body is not equipped to do the things that I love 24/7. There are things you can do to change and accommodate how you can do the things you love 24/7, and that's a completely separate conversation. However, when we hear the definition of, oh, this is masculine energy, women shouldn't be doing X, Y, Z, women shouldn't be in leadership positions, women shouldn't be controlling. No, what we're saying is we shouldn't be doing it like men. We should be doing it in a way that makes us feel empowered,
Mm.
that makes us feel that we're not sacrificing something.
Yeah.
If you think about it, most of the time when women are trying to be equal to men, like, oh, I can do what a man does. Okay, well, you're putting yourself in a position or in a space which was created and tailored for men. Working 9 to 5 or climbing the career ladder as we do in the West, right? If you actually follow that, you're going to have to sacrifice having children. You're going to have to sacrifice that perfect fertility window that we have. You're going to have to sacrifice a lot of things for yourself, right? Just so that you can compete with the men that you're saying that you're on par with. The thing is, no one has ever said that on an intellectual level, men are better than women or that women are inferior. No, we're saying that we just need a completely different space to play with.
Mm.
So when someone gets upset, if you get triggered when someone says, this is masculine and you need to let go of these masculine traits, recognize the fact that you're trying to prove to yourself that you can succeed in a man's world. How about you actually reframe what we're saying and think about, okay, I can succeed, but in a women's world because I'm a woman. If I want to play the game, I need to play with my own rules. And I just want you to, as you listen to that, I want you to let that sink in because it's quite hard. And a lot of people will still get triggered by me saying this as well. But know the fact that, like myself, Sumaya, like all these other women that I've also interviewed on my podcast as well, we literally have been there. Like, I was someone who worked 24/7. I had, at one point, I was working full time in academia, managing two businesses at the same time, right? And working in academia in and of itself is something that can be up to 12-hour shifts by myself, male dominated sector, trying to prove myself and go up the ladder to just earn a lot of money to make my mum proud. That was my life. No one told me that if I let go, that everything would be okay. In fact, people encouraged me to keep going. I
Mm.
was burning myself out. I struggled to even let go, like to even recognize that if I do get married in one day, that I would have to let someone else do all of this for me. I made control be my safe space. And I think we'll get into that, but yeah, I'll leave it there.
SubhanAllah, I can relate to so much of what you just said, especially the part of wanting to make our mothers proud by almost being the son that they might not have had. I don't know
Mm,
if that's your story, but it was definitely mine, SubhanAllah, being that provider for my mom because my father and my brother were not that for her. Like I told you in the episode, I had to protect myself and be a man for myself, but my mom also played a huge part in me wanting to be so successful and so overachieving, SubhanAllah. So thank you for sharing that. I'm curious to know when in your life did you reach a point where you realized this is not working for me and what happened exactly?
SubhanAllah, the moment I realized this was not working for me is when I wanted to get married. At the beginning, and SubhanAllah, I feel really sad. Like, I actually recognize how bad it was what I said to my mom. But when I first wanted to get married, I think I was like 19, 18 years old. I was already burnt out. Imagine an 18-year-old absolutely burnt out. I said to my mom, I want to get married because I want to run away from this house. Yeah. um, they just even me saying those words out loud again, I feel how I just recognize how hurt my mom must have felt. So, subhanAllah, I grew up in a family where my mom raised us for the most part on her own. So, my mom and dad did get divorced. Um, but my mom and dad got divorced when I was maybe in my early teenagehood. But like at least compared to some of my younger siblings, like I actually saw a lot of my father growing up, but they didn't. My other siblings, younger siblings, they did not see much of their father growing up. And because of that, I was always hearing my mom say, "Oh, your father this, your father that." So I grew up really unable to respect any man. Absolutely. I mean, when I saw my dad walk away, that was it. And even then, before we got to that point, I was just seeing that it was about to get to that point. Like I could see the arguments, like the disappointment, the little comments my mom would make, everything. And again, I'm gonna always say this, like there's no one to blame. When you recognize the struggle that they both went through, there is no one to blame. And that's the beauty of it. When you actually get to a point where you heal your past, you realize that, okay, they needed healing, but I'm not going to blame them for something that they didn't recognize they needed healing on. I'm not going to blame them for something they did not recognize that they needed healing on. Okay. So if I just go back to that, so yeah, I grew up, we had a lot of things going on. Oh my goodness. Like, even me as an adult, I still struggle to call myself a victim of a lot of things that I saw growing up. It was so hard. And for the privacy of my family, because I know my mom's not going to be quite happy to go into a lot of details, but there was a lot of going to the court, a lot of court cases that we had to deal with growing up. Imagine me as someone's trying to study for your A levels, which for non-British listeners, that's the 2 years before you go into university. They are one of the hardest years ever. Like university is so much easier than A levels. But imagine studying for that, working part time, being sick. I was in the hospital for a very long time. Subhanallah. I did not know what was going on with my body. But looking back, my body was breaking down. I can tell. Doctors didn't know how to diagnose me. I was studying. There are pictures of me on my older sister's phone of me, she trying to teach me maths and biology and chemistry in the hospital bed because of how bad I was going through. Like my body was going through a lot, but I never recognized on a conscious level how much I was going through. And long story short, I guess, um, we were going through a lot of court cases. There was just so much going on. And when I realized, oh, I'm actually 18 now, or oh, I'm actually about to go to university. And in university, there's a lot of like, I hear loads of rumors of sisters actually, getting married. Like, this is where marriage happens. You get to meet the brothers in the ISOC, in the Islamic society, and you're just like, oh my God, that brother's practicing. I want to get to know him. And then your life can start the way you want. Now you have control over having things the way you want. So I saw marriage as an escape. And at that point is when I realized, okay, I need to run away from this house. If I stay in this house any longer, I'm never going to have the dream life I've always wanted. So I said that to my mum. SubhanAllah, I looked at her dead in the face. I looked in her eyes and I said to her, I want to get married because I want to run away from this house. And it makes me really sad that I said that. And when I did get married, fast forward a bit, fast forward a long time. But when I did get married, my mom asked me, she looked at me and she said to me, whilst I was in my wedding dress, she said to me, Zainab, are you running away still because you want to escape? And I looked at her and I held her face and I said, no. I said, I'm really happy. because I actually went through all of the healing that I needed. And I will never, I regret saying that to you, and I genuinely apologize. I apologize to my mom, not trying to ruin my makeup on my wedding day. But we had that moment, and yeah, it was a powerful and beautiful moment.
Oh, subhanAllah, you get me emotional there. Wow. Sorry, I'm gonna need a minute.
Yeah.
So, can you walk us through some of that healing process? What did you do? And I feel like with feminine energy healing, it's not always about what we do, it's actually about what we stop doing. So, what was it for you that created that shift?
Yeah. SubhanAllah, for me, like I knew that I had work to do, knowing that I didn't know how to respect men. So let's put it this way. I saw marriage as an escape back then. So then I was starting to watch a lot of marriage content. How to get married? What are the responsibilities of a wife, Muslim wife? What are the responsibilities of a husband that my dad didn't do for me? Whatever, right? I was actually trying to learn everything. I was engaging in a lot of feminine energy content. I was trying to like learn everything from A to Z. And the biggest thing that I found was I could not learn or I could not put myself in a position to respect a man. If a man said to me, no, that's it, khalas, like we're going to have an argument. Like, why would you say no to me? How dare you? Right. And I couldn't fathom ever being in a position. I even had conversations with my sister and my mom. I was like, Mom, what if I get married and my husband says no to me? What if I get married and my husband tells me that I can't do something? Like, Islamically, do I actually have to listen to that? Oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? And my mom sat me down and she actually had to give me this difficult conversation. And I think a lot of sisters might get triggered. But Islamically, if there is no, like, if there is something that your husband says no to and he has the right, you have to listen. But my brain was thinking so to the point where, oh my God, he's going to be so illogical. Oh my God, he's going to just want to make my life a living hell. He's against me. He's going to be against me because all I've ever seen is men being the enemy of peace. Men being like the reason why there's no peace in this world.
Mm,
So if I listen to a man, I'm going to create no peace for myself. So because of watching this feminine energy content and watching this marriage content and stuff like that, I started to go, oh my God, if I actually have to respect a man, what do I do? I have to let go of control. Are you crazy? I have to learn to let him lead. What does that even mean? What if he leads in a way that I don't like? In fact, I speak about this on season 1 on the dates that I went on. I say dates, but I mean Islamically, like halal, like I'm meeting a guy in public, right, with a wali or with my mum. And I would just be looking and analyzing their face, analyzing how they're speaking to me, completely defensive, completely standoff-ish, and just be like, no, you literally can't do anything for me. You're useless. Like that was the way I was looking at men. They're so unconfident. They literally can't lead. They're pathetic. They're beta males or whatever you want to say. And the biggest thing that I realized is when it started to get really tough to actually find good high value men, I realized, okay, maybe this is me. I'm doing something wrong. And for the first time ever, I watched this film called Legally Blonde. And I speak about it. The episode on my podcast is called How Legally Blonde Changed My Life. But I watched this film, and for those who don't know Legally Blonde, it's this like supposed quote unquote dumb blonde girl who is living her best life. And like she's just everything is pink, everything is girly. And then all of a sudden she gets like betrayed by her boyfriend or something. And then she decides to become a lawyer, right? And it's pretty cool. But as she becomes a lawyer, she's still doing her typical dumb blonde stuff. So she's all dressed in pink. All she cares about is her aesthetic. I watched that and I hated it. I couldn't watch it. I tried to get up. My sister sat me back down, and I was like, "This is a waste of time. Like this is so this. Oh, why is she like that? She's so annoying. She's so irritating, right? She's so this. She's so that." Like I could predict this whole film is such a stupid film. What are they trying? The message of this film is so silly. And I had to journal. When I got so triggered, my sister said to me, "Why are you so triggered by this film? Like it's just a girl enjoying her life. Like what did she do that made you so upset?" And I was like, "Because she doesn't know about how to really navigate this world. She's being naive. She only cares about what she wants to do." And when I said those words, I actually sat down and had to journal. She's being naive. Where was she being naive? She's trying to become a lawyer. Like, where is the naivety there? The thing that annoyed me the most that I recognized in myself was that she was actually doing the things that she wanted without caring about what other people thought.
Wow.
That is what triggered the crap out of me.
SubhanAllah.
She literally spoke her desires, didn't care about what other people thought. She was literally saying, "Oh, I want to go to this party today. Will we be wearing pink?" And then everyone's just like, "Why would you wear pink?" But she just likes pink, like that's just her thing. And she didn't care if people looked at her and said, ugh. She'd be like, okay, I'm going to move on to someone else who wants to do this with me. Like, it doesn't matter. And to me, I was literally cringing. Like, my hands are going into my nails, are going into my hand. I was just like, oh, I can't imagine. This is so embarrassing. Imagine your desires being shut out. Imagine, like, you being judged by other people. I could never do that. So, the biggest thing that I learned in that moment, right, was I need to learn exactly what I like. I literally don't know what I like. I've just been on survival mode. And if I can figure out what I like, I'm going to speak it with absolute sincerity. I'm going to speak my truth and I'm going to speak my desire. And this is how I started. This is what was the biggest changing point for me, not just in my marriage game, but in my whole life to heal my femininity. Because the reason I hid my desires, subhanAllah, is because I didn't want to disrupt the peace in my family. If I said to my mum all of a sudden, I really want to go outside on a day where my mum needed me, then my desire to go out in the sun, walk around, have fun, really enjoy that sun. Like I really love walking in the sun. If I really told my mom that desire, then my mom would have felt upset. So I would disrupt the peace. So just don't say it, Zainab. Keep it to yourself. In another example, if I bought something and it was like, my mom wouldn't really agree to buy things that are not black or dark in color because then it's, you have to clean it and maintain it. So I never bought anything colorful. So that's why I was triggered by the color pink. I was triggered by bright colors as well because maintaining them is just a waste of time. But in that way, I realized, oh my God, my creativity was just blocked. So if I bought something white, my mom, the first thing my mom would think of, or she would tell me is, well, who's going to clean it and look after it? Is that what you want me to do for you then? And I would be thinking, oh, I'm disrupting the peace again. Let me just do what my mom likes. It's okay. But again, each time I'm doing it, I'm hiding my desire, hiding my desire, hiding my desire. And by the word desire, I just mean my needs and my wants.
Hmm.
That's it. Like that's all I ever wanted. And on a subconscious level, when you hide your desire constantly, your subconscious is going to recognize that these desires are dangerous to you.
Hmm.
On a deep, deep level, they are so dangerous to your life, like you don't need them. If a figure of authority and someone who has your safety in their hands, i.e., your mum, your dad, your older siblings who are considerably older than you, or your teachers when you were at school, if you do something that shows your, if you showed your desire and they restricted it, or they told you that it's not useful, or it's not important, your subconscious really holds on to that because your safety is compromised. Because if they don't like it, for example, if your mum is not agreeing with your desire and she gets upset, you showing your desire is a direct link to your safety being compromised. Let me say that again. You showing your desire, if it upsets your mum, is a subconscious level, on a subconscious level, is showing that your safety is compromised. And
Hmm.
learning that was powerful for me. How my desires on a subconscious level were seen as threats. My desires were literally seen as threats to me. That's why when I watched Legally Blonde, I was triggered because it was literally the whole film from beginning to end. She was speaking and embodied in her desires.
Yeah. And
Subhanallah.
not only what you just said, but on top of that, what I'm hearing is this idea that the constant suppression of your authentic self-expression through those desires lead to you not knowing who you are and what you stand for.
Exactly.
And the feminine energy is all about that soul searching.
Yeah.
Whereas the masculine, being the protector and provider, is more about putting others first.
Hmm.
And that's what you did for so many years. And then you came to this realization, if I keep on doing that, I will never know who I am and what I want and what I need.
Hmm.
So that's extremely beautiful. Thank you for sharing those examples for us because those are very practical. And sometimes we get triggered by everyday content. So this movie, for example, that you mentioned, and we don't even realize why we're being triggered.
Yeah.
But in that moment, Allah opened your eyes to it, Alhamdulillah. And so I'm guessing this led to you deepening your inner work to embracing your feminine energy. And you mentioned some dysfunctional behaviors that you were engaging in. So this idea of not being able to surrender to someone else's leadership and not letting go of control. Now, based on the work that you do, the people that you talk to, especially the Muslim women that you meet and that you coach, what are some other dysfunctional behaviors that they are engaging in that are stopping them from getting married to, I want to say, I don't like the term high value men or high value women, but I would say a good spouse. What
Mm.
stops them from finding a good spouse?
Let's address the elephant in the room. I love using the word high value man because the word this phrase, right? It triggers a lot of people and it makes you aspire to want to marry this man. The phrase high value man is basically someone who protects you, who provides for you, who makes sure that you are safe, can retire you for the rest of your life because they are providing for you as they should Islamically. And when you actually just break that down on a simple level, it's just a good Muslim man. That's
Mm,
literally what that is. And if I write, the difference here though is if I write how to get married to a good Muslim man, it doesn't have the same value because of what society has created to someone saying how to get married to a high value Muslim man. Now, the reason people are attracted to the word high value Muslim man is because they want to really see a protector. They want to really see a provider. And they don't see that with the word Muslim man. Why? Because a lot of men in their family are Muslim men, but they fail to see that protector side. They fail to see that provider side. And I can call myself guilty of this because when I was on my search around marriage, every time I saw someone say, good Muslim men do this, I was just like, yeah, right. Like I would scoff.
yeah.
Literally. I couldn't, like, if someone say, find this good Muslim man, I'd be like, well, my dad's a Muslim. He left and walked away from us. Or I have some uncles that are not necessarily good provider men. It's way too common.
Mm,
A lot of, and sadly, a lot of Somali girls, because I'm Somali, a lot of Somali families are single mothers. They're single mother households.
yeah.
So saying good Muslim man to them means nothing.
Mm. We've tainted the term Muslim, unfortunately. So yeah, now I understand your definition of high value man. You know, the way that I was seeing it for both men and women, for me, it was like saying, oh, someone who's worthy. And the term value, I was translating it into worthiness. And that's
Mm,
why I was like, who am I to define someone's worth? But I see it now as you just defined it as quality, like someone who has
exactly.
quality traits. And that
Exactly.
makes sense. So the question is, what are Muslim women doing that are stopping them from meeting these men or actually getting
Yeah.
married to these men?
Yeah. So let me take you back then again to what my mindset, because a lot of my clients, they listen to season, sorry, excuse me. A lot of my clients listen to season one of my podcast and go, you are literally me. And I'm like, yeah. I realized that there's a lot of people like me in the world, right? So what exactly were the things that I struggled with that made me not encounter high value men when they were there right in front of me all this time? Dysfunctional trait number one, as we already said, is not being able to let go of control. It's number one, the biggest block. Men are the people in control. I have one of my viral videos on Instagram. I think it's over 1 million views. I don't know how much. Like it's crazy. The comments are insane on that video. A lot of triggered women. The essence of letting go of control allows and gives the opportunity for your spouse or the potential spouse that you're speaking to lead you. If you cannot let go, he cannot lead you, and then you're going to get frustrated. Okay, that's dysfunctional trait number one, not being able to let go of control. And what links directly to that, and is the biggest turn off for men, and I speak about this with my husband all the time. I find it so fun. Like I bring anonymized client stories, or like my challenges that we do every Friday, which is called Mind of a High Value Woman. Like you submit a challenge of something you've experienced on a dating, whilst you're looking for men, Muslim men to marry. And you bring like a POV, this happened to you and this happened, what do you do in that situation? So we discussed this with my husband, and he says the biggest thing that turns him off, or when he was looking for marriage as well, is coming across women that are so defensive. That is the biggest dysfunctional trait number two,
Mm,
being defensive. But then what does that even mean? And why are women defensive in the first place? You have to break that down. Being defensive is a protector instinct. You're protecting yourself. You are literally on a subconscious level scared of men. And I know, like, someone listening to this right now is probably someone like, and I say this because this is me too. Like, if I listened, me back then, if I listened to what I'm saying, I would just be like, yeah, right, I'm not scared of men, right? Like I used to run a lot of like as I said, I was running a business, two businesses, working in academia, giving presentations, like giving keynote speeches, the whole lot. I literally was not scared of public speaking. I was not scared of men. But subconsciously, if you are being defensive, you are protecting yourself from something that failed you back in your past.
Mm.
You are protecting yourself from the failure of a marriage that you saw in your parents. You are protecting yourself from the failure of maybe you didn't have an older brother. You're protecting yourself from the failure of uncles who should have been there for you when they weren't. You are protecting yourself from being in the position where your mum was back then, or your aunties, or the failed marriages you see constantly in your community. And that in itself is making you so defensive that you can't even speak naturally to men. This is
Mm.
the biggest turn off for them. Like they will see men, like there was a situation where I think a woman was trying to, a guy asked a woman, what do you do for work? And she was just like, oh, I work as a doctor or something. And he asked her, oh, so what's the progression like for that? Like, do you want to be a GP or like consultant? And she said something like, well, why do you think I would be a GP just because a lot of mums are GPs?
Wow.
And he was just like, what? Like, I don't get it. Like, why are you being so defensive? And a lot of women don't realize that they put themselves in positions like that. Like, everything they say, when you're asked a question, for example, that question was very innocent. What's the progression like? Your
Mm.
career? I bet you 99% of women listening to this, the first thing that's coming into your head is he looking for me to say that I want to stay at home?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is he waiting for me to say, oh my God, no, 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 I prefer to be someone that looks at be a mom. Like I know that doctors have a really bad work-life balance. Don't worry about that. Is he waiting for me to say that? Because I'm not going to be like that. So then you automatically start your response with, let me show him exactly what I'm like. That's
Mm.
so defensive, so unnecessary.
But let me be the devil's advocate here because I know that women are going to be listening and thinking, well, 90% of the men that I've been talking to before this one have been like that. They have asked me to give up, to compromise, to do something, or to become defensive because of their own behaviors. So what am I supposed to do if I feel like they're all the same at the end? How do I unlearn those defensive mechanisms?
I love this. This is exactly the work I do with my clients. So the first thing you need to recognize is you cannot attach yourself, and this is really hard. You cannot attach yourself to things that are gonna block your responsibilities as a wife. I'm just gonna say that loud and clear. You cannot attach yourself to things that will block your responsibilities as a wife. And the only thing men are concerned about is your ability to be a good wife and your ability to be a good mum. Okay, very basic. Like men have a very basic criteria compared to women. And I talk about this on episode 7, season 2, episode 7 on my podcast. But the criteria for men is, are you going to be a good wife? Like, are you Islamically going to do the duties that are written for you? And are you going to be a good mom? Now, the way they can come across and ask you can be very defensive, like not defensive. What's the opposite of that? Aggressive, maybe, and that can automatically put you in that defensive place. But know this: if you have a plan where you know that you can fulfill your responsibilities as a wife, you can fulfill your responsibilities as a mother, right? Then you need to be embodied in that vision as you speak to men. For example, I know fully that even though I was working academia, I was working 12-hour shifts, which is pretty much like a doctor at this point, right? This is not how on earth am I going to fulfill my responsibilities as a wife and as a future mother, right? If I continue in a job like that. It's not possible. Personally, for me, it's not possible. And I didn't like the way it was like the way it was affecting my body. It was a high stress environment. So what I did instead was I envisioned the life that I wanted with my husband. This is how you attract the provider man. I knew that if I had all the money in the world, I would prefer to work part-time in academia because I'm only working in academia because I like the job. Now I'm
Mm.
going to break that down again because a lot of women might be confused. But if you think about this, if you had all the money in the world, all the time in the world, like you literally can be doing anything in the whole world because you don't have to worry about rent, you don't have to worry about bills, you don't have to worry about a roof over your head, you don't have to worry about food, your clothes, nothing. You don't have to worry about that. If you could be in that position, what job would you really want to be doing?
Mm.
What would you actually be doing with your time? A lot of women therefore say, oh, okay, well, I actually wanted to do this business, but it's kind of like, I don't know if it will work. If it works, I'm not going to make a lot of, if it doesn't work, I won't make a lot of money. and you're scared of failing. Well, you don't have to worry about that because now you can start as many projects as you want. Or if you've always wanted to do tennis, but your mom said to you, what's the point of doing tennis? You're not going to make money from that, right? Now you can start doing tennis all of a sudden. Like you can do whatever you want. So I knew for a full fact I didn't want to be working in academia full time. I loved science. I don't get me wrong. I still read science papers. I still keep up to date with what I can. I mean, not putting myself too much in that stressful environment again, but I keep myself in the science the way I want to be in science, not working and slaving away for someone else. And that allows me to fulfill my responsibilities. And that allows me to not be defensive when someone asks me, oh, okay, but what's your progression with academia? Then I can say, truth be told, I'm looking for someone who can let me like retire, who can let me be the best wife, who can let me be the best mom and focus on the dreams that I've always had. This is the response that you should be giving.
Mm. So this all goes back to knowing what you want, because
Exactly.
some women won't compromise on the career because they want to be working 12 hours per day. And who are we to judge those women? But that means they are going to have to compromise on the type of men that they are going to be with, because that might not be the provider who will say, okay, I'm good with you working 12 hours a day and not seeing you that much. Maybe that man will be the type of that will say, if you work that much, then you contribute to the bills and to the expenses of the household. Um, because then I will see it as us needing it as a couple. You know what I mean? So it's like, if I know what I want as a woman, and as you said, is that if I project myself in this future self, then I know what I'm ready to compromise on and what I'm not ready to compromise on. And there's no perfect formula. I feel like everyone is different here. Um,
Mm.
and the second thing that I would say on this, sometimes we project whatever negative experiences we've had in other talking stages into the talking stage that we're having at the moment. And when this happens with my clients, I literally tell them to take a break and to heal from whatever they've experienced, because otherwise they're carrying that emotional baggage from all the conversations they've had with men that have not led to anything, and all the hurt, and they bring that onto the new table with this new person who has nothing to do with any of that. And that's not fair on the person that you're talking to, because now you're seeing them through the lens of the hurt that other men have to go through. And so taking a break at times is a good thing as well.
Yeah. I just want to go back to the point you mentioned with who are we to judge if someone wants to work 12 hours a day? Perfect. Like that's not my position to judge. It's no one's position to judge at all. And I'm very against women who realize and recognize, okay, well, I want to be a stay-at-home wife and work on whatever I want to do. But if you work 12 hours a day, you're like the worst person in the world. You don't recognize that you need to work on something. No. What I want everybody to realize though is the way you should be living to the way you should work out what's best for you is by, as Sumaya was saying, is recognizing and realizing who you are as an authentic person, who
Mm,
not who you are through the things that your mother pushed you to, not who you are through the things that you had to do because you were in survival mode. And truth be told, a lot of the professions that we go into are because we've been pushed into this. We really have been pushed into these professions. I'm not saying I'm against these professions, by the way. I love women who are doctors. I love women who are go-getters. And I myself have not let go of my leadership skills that I have. I love being in leadership positions. I love leading and doing things that are quote unquote masculine. But I package them in a way that can perfectly balance my responsibilities as a wife and my responsibilities as a future mother. I will never let go of the things that make me who I am. And leading and doing these business type masculine things are a big part of who I am. But I have to heal myself first, go through exactly why I'm doing this job in the first place. And for me, I could tell you a billion reasons why I love academia. I could tell you a billion reasons why academia is like one of the best things to do, how you're helping, because I used to help children. Like the research I was doing was very translational to children's health. So I could give you a billion reasons, but truth be told, I actually went into this job when I did my inner work. It was painful, but I only went into this job because my mum needed money and this was the quickest way to utilize my degree.
yeah, subhanAllah. I have an exercise that I do with my clients on this, what you just mentioned. I make them list everything that they do in terms of actions throughout the day, throughout the week. And I ask them to question, am I doing this from a place of authenticity or from a place of survival?
Mm.
And if it's
I
from
love that.
survival, then what can I do to turn that into something more empowering or lighter? Or how can I let go of this potentially if I can? And I think it sums up what you just said. I think it's true that a lot of women think that they want to be the working boss type of women, but it actually comes from a place of trauma and
Mm,
survival.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for emphasizing on that. Okay, so we spoke about some of the dysfunctional behaviors that Muslim women engage in at times in their pursuit of the right spouse for them. Can you tell us and can you give us some juicy tips on what to do instead? Like, because you focus on how should we talk to Muslim men in order to
Yeah.
a high value one. So give us some practical tips, please.
Of course. Okay. Let me break down the juiciest tips ever to actually learn how to speak to men. Number one, and this is what we do every Friday. So for those who are not familiar with my content, every Friday I post a challenge on my stories, and like the ladies, they fill in and submit the responses. I break down those responses to show you exactly why it's wrong or if it's right. And then the winner gets put on my highlights. But if you're interested, then follow me and join those Friday challenges, inshallah. But the biggest, juiciest tip that I can give you is know your okay, let me okay. I'm getting too excited here. Okay, I have 500 tips flowing in my mind right now. Let me narrow it down to the first top three. Okay, Bismillah. I literally have this is me being put on the spot, right? 'Cause this is a very organic conversation. Alhamdulillah. Right. Tip number one to make your conversations attract high value men without compromising the deen is by being easy. What does that even mean? Being easy is the easiest way to stop being defensive. When someone asks you a question, right? And automatically, as we described in earlier on in this episode, you might feel like you have to protect yourself from a specific answer. Like you're already putting yourself in their shoes, right? And you're already thinking, oh my God, he's asking me this question because he wants me to do this or he wants me to do that. No, be easy. Like imagine you have no idea what he meant. Literally answer his questions or answer everything from a very easy and curious point of view. What does that look like? For example, if someone asks you, so what do you cook at home? Triggers a lot of women. Oh my God, this question triggers a lot of women. What do you cook at home? Is he trying to understand if I'm a good cook or not? No, I want you to drop this mentality. Literally, easy answer. Easy and curious and easy, curious and open, not defensive. You can literally think of the dish that you genuinely like without having to go 5,000 steps in the future. We're not playing chess in this conversation. So be easy. That's the like juicy tip number one. Be easy. If you literally like to cook banana bread or something every day, then you can say, I love cooking banana bread every day. Now you don't have to worry about have I trapped myself in a position where this man is going to make me cook banana bread every day. No, we're not playing chess. So just be easy. That's tip number one. Tip number two is when you're when you want to set expectations, and this is what I work with my clients as well. Let's say you want to set the expectation that you want this marriage to be 100% you provide and I don't want to provide whatsoever. This is not 50-50, it's not 70-30, it's not 80-20, it's 100% and 0%. Okay. If you want to set that expectation, but you don't want to come across as someone that's like high and mighty, like, oh, I don't do this, by the way, like, just know that I'm looking for a man who can just sort all the bills out. I don't want to look like if you don't want to come across as high and mighty, the best way to do it and set any expectation or any standard is from a curious standpoint. Imagine and already embody the very thing that you are thinking about. If you want the man to pay 100%, embody already being in an environment where you've never paid for anything. Embody that, like literally, and then be confused when it doesn't happen. It's the easiest way. For example, if someone is you're on a marriage, I don't know what to call it, but I just say date because it's easier. But you get what I'm trying to say. You're on a date with this guy. He's your potential candidate, and he now looks at the bill, and it's this awkward silence. The bill is on the table, right? He probably has come from a place where his mum usually pays for a lot of things, or maybe his sisters. He splits with his sisters. It's normal for him, right? How can you set that expectation? This is what you do, okay? Literally get a paper and pen, write this down, or take the timestamp or whatever. I want you to literally stare at that paper, right? Look at him and just be confused, like literally absolute confusion. If he picks that paper and say, how do we split this? Right? If he looks at that and says, "How do you split this?" You need to be like, Split? What do you mean split? I don't understand what's going on right now." Like literally curious because why? You've never in your life seen someone split the bill. Like this is so rare to you that this is alien. And it's not the same as being defensive. Like you're actually genuinely curious, like what the hell is going on right now? I'm so confused. Right? And genuinely, when you do that, a man instinctively, right, will be like, oh, okay, right. What do I do? He's gonna be put back into his instincts to sort things out.
Mm.
So
Oh,
literally, that's how you take a step back. A lot of
mm,
my clients have used this. It's very helpful. Another thing is, another easy one. If you expect someone to open a door for you all the time, right? And you're used to opening the door, you're just like waiting, and it's that awkward moment, like, is this guy going to open the door for me or am I opening the door? Embody someone who's always had the door open for them. Okay? Like just embody that. Stand by the door and don't do anything. He's going to be like, what's going on? And you can be like, what's going on? I don't get it. Like you're not saying open a door for me right now, or I'm sad you don't open the door for me. That's crazy. You need to already you need to be in that person who just thinks that this is natural. So then when you go, what's like he asks you, for example, why are you standing by the door? Like, I thought you were gonna get the door for me. Or I I don't know. Normally every time I get by the door, I'm just so used to someone else opening it for me. It's natural for you.
mm. That's such an incredible tip, and one way that I help my clients do that, I don't know if you do it too, is by helping them create an alter ego. I have an alter ego as well. I have a mood board for my alter ego. I know what she looks
Ooh.
like. I know what she talks like. And when I find myself in situations where my lower self or my ego wants to do something that I know I'm going to regret later, I ask myself, what would my alter ego do? And that helps me put myself in that behavioral position. So yeah, I
Yes, I
completely.
love that. Let me just say, because I call this my quantum self. This is the you that's outside of this world. This is the you that, like, rather than an alter ego, I call it my quantum self because imagine the Zainab, or this is me, or imagine the you that's listening to this right now who grew up with the perfect household. You literally have the provider man of all provider mans as your father. You have the most relaxed, embodied woman as your mum. You are literally catered for 24/7, never had to worry about money, never had to worry about like anything, right? Literally catered to. This is the quantum version of who you are outside of this world. Literally never seen struggle, right? That person, embody her,
Yeah.
literally reach out to her. So I get my clients to call them, give them a name. So a lot of clients give names that are so juicy. Like I'm just like, oh, okay. And they give them a setting. So they say, okay, my quantum self is currently like in a Victorian era where they all have ball gowns, dressing really fancy. I have maids and servants coming to me in the morning, waking me up for breakfast. Like we really give detailed analysis of who our quantum selves are. And then we call her in. What would this person do right now? What
Mhm.
would the quantum Zainab do in this situation? What would the quantum Sumaya be doing in this situation, etc.? So I love that. Yeah, I do this all the time with my clients.
I came across this technique by reading a book called The Alter Ego. I don't remember the name of the author, but it's a technique that's actually used by amazing, successful athletes, especially people in all fields that have reached level of surpassing and transcending themselves. That's really inspiring. So this is not something that's like woo woo or anything like that. It's actually working,
Yeah.
subhanAllah.
Because the nature of it is that you're removing the limiting beliefs that you had all your life. That's what it is.
It's kind of like
You're tuning into the version of you who doesn't have those limiting beliefs.
It's a form of fake it until you make it, but it's actually more powerful than that, I think.
Yes, it's so much deeper than that.
Mm-hmm. So that's two tips, sorry. Do you want to add another
Ah,
one to that,
yes.
Zainab?
Okay. Yeah, let's go. Okay. So, tip number one, I'm so bad at remembering things. Tip number one was being easy, not playing 3D chess, right? Tip number two is being curious and embodied in the things that you want as expectations and standards, etc. Tip number three, nagging. What not to do, how to avoid nagging, because this is something that a lot of women don't recognize that they're doing.
Mm,
Okay. What is nagging? Like, let's break that down. Nagging is when you've kind of set something. Maybe you've tried to set that expectation, right? Maybe you try the tip I gave in tip two and it's just not working. right? So now you feel like you have to speak about it or you have to talk about it and you need to sit down and communicate or whatever. And you can kind of accidentally enter this mothering tone, or you can accidentally enter this like you need to be doing this, or I need to hear this from you, or I need this, whatever, right? Or you're not doing this enough, right? How to avoid that? So this is not just for people who are getting married. This is for people in marriages as well. Like this is so helpful for you. What you need to be doing is, again, like always, embodying your quantum self. So embody that version of yourself that is just literally has no limiting beliefs whatsoever. You are embodied in the very thing that you're sad about or that it's not being met, the desire or the expectation. Let's give an example in a situation. Let's say you're tired of having to text and you prefer to call, maybe, or you're tired of, in a marriage, let's say you're tired of having to clean up after someone. Like you've always mentioned, hey, when we finish dinner, do you mind like helping me wash up? Like I can't do it, or whatever. Like you're just nagging. You have to keep reminding them. And you feel like whether it's I prefer calls, you have to keep reminding them and you feel like you're nagging at this point. The way you do this as a person who is embodied, right, in their divine feminine energy, whatever you want to call it, is again calling in that desire. What is that desire, right? Or what is that complaint? Because under every complaint is a desire. I want you to really remember that. When you're complaining about something, oh, you don't call me often. I'd prefer you'd call me. That's a complaint, right? If you are complaining about not washing the dishes, that's a complaint, right? But what's the desire? The desire in the married situation is that you want to be helped. It's very important that you can get to the desire underneath the complaint. And pre-marriage as well, like when you're talking to someone and you feel like you're complaining about your communication style, actually get down to the desire. Okay. So if the desire is, I would prefer to call or video call or whatever it is, right? I prefer to have a call, then say, I like, we do this in our challenges as well every Fridays, but you speak your desire first. I love it when we call.
Mm,
So powerful. Then why don't we call? Why don't we call is defensive and is nagging?
mm,
I love it when we call. I love our conversations the most when it's on the phone. I love our conversations the most when I can see your face, whatever, right? And then actually just leaving it at that. You're not giving a solution to the problem. You're not a problem solver because men are problem solvers. So when you say, I love having conversations over the phone, or I love it when I can see your face, is there anything that we can do or stuff like that? Like you just leave the solution for him to come up with. Okay, sure, then let's call then every day if possible. Or how often do you want to call then? That's him going to solve the problem for you. He takes ownership of that.
mhm,
In the married situation, for example, if you're complaining about certain things and the desire is actually you want to be helped, right? Then deep down, call in that desire. I love it when you help me around the house.
mm.
I love it every time. And when he does do it, you can just say, I love it. When you wash the dishes, it makes me feel so loved.
Yeah, so positive reinforcement so that the behavior is repeated.
Yeah, positive reinforcement when it's repeated, but also if it's not being done in that moment, right? Then you can just speak that desire. I would love if you could wash the dishes. It would make me feel so relaxed.
Yeah.
Or you
And
can even change it as well. Like you could even change it into a problem. You can say, I'm really struggling to feel relaxed today, but I have this to do. I don't know what to do about it. That's a powerful thing to do. And this is what I call a desire-based problem. You create problems because men are natural problem solvers. You create a problem based with your desire, like right in the middle of it. I am struggling to feel relaxed today. I would really want to feel relaxed today, but I've got X, Y, Z, and I don't know what to do.
mm,
Powerful.
yeah,
If
because the man needs to be in that hero position, right? To feel
yes,
masculine.
yeah.
Mm,
So if I just give an example, because I feel like ladies love examples, but if I was to give you an example for that desire-based problem, in that situation where you're saying, I would love to feel relaxed, if you could, for example, I would love to feel relaxed if you could, but sorry, I would love to feel relaxed, but I have to wash the dishes and the laundry needs to be done, and I'm not sure what I can do today, right? You being in that position, the guy's going to be like, oh, okay, well, I can do X, Y, Z, and you can do this and this. Or, and then if you don't even want to do his plan, like his plan is not helpful to you, then you can say, "Oh, I don't think this would work because if I do that, I feel like my shoulders are going to get tense and this is going to happen and I just want to feel relaxed." You just reinforce that rather than saying, "Okay, but I don't like that plan," or "See, you're not helping me. Can't you just do this?" No, stick and stay firm in your desire to feel relaxed and
Mm.
leave the solution, leave him to be in a position that he can keep coming up with solutions until it's a solution that makes you feel good.
I was teaching exactly those techniques in one of my workshop called Thrive in Your Feminine last year.
Mm.
And a lot of the women in the chat were like, that sounds too easy to actually be working. And I told them, give it a try and see. And subhanAllah, a lot of them would get back to me and say, you know what, that subtle shift actually made a difference. And I think transformation comes from those subtle shifts, you
Mm.
know? We always think of it as, oh, I need to do something drastic or he needs to change himself. But it's actually those small things that we do on a daily basis, the way that we talk to each other, the tone that we take, the words that we choose that will make a huge difference in the dynamic of the couple.
Exactly, and that's why I focus so much on speech. No one focus like I rarely find any, I dare say that there is any, that really focuses on the actual words because it's the subtle change in your words that can really have the biggest impact. And I love that you said that some of your clients and in your workshop said this is too easy because I felt that too. And I think we spoke about it briefly in our episode together on my podcast. And I've said this as well before when you come across a solution and you're just like, how on earth can this justify my years of suffering in this problem? How can this easy solution justify my years of struggling to find that solution? I spent 5 years on this problem, and you're saying that it's going to take just me doing that one simple thing. I call BS. And it's natural. Like I used to think the same thing. I got triggered by a lot of women telling me, "Oh, well, you just need to do X, Y, Z," and I'm just like, no, you don't understand. There's something going wrong here. There's a mismatch. The balance is not, the scale is not balanced. So I'm gonna go find someone else who gives me this really long solution. I'm gonna go to someone who gives me like books and books to read so I can work out what's going on. Because I have to balance this. It's not fair. And you have to call out when you think a solution is too easy, you have to call out to yourself, am I just thinking that it's not fair? Am
Mm.
I really just worried about balancing my years of suffering with years of solution finding?
SubhanAllah.
Yeah.
It's the ego speaking, subhanAllah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sometimes the solution is not as big and difficult as we make it. It's definitely not as big and difficult as the problem that we perceive. So, yeah, I think this conversation was so enlightening, Zainab. Thank you so much. And I have extra questions. So, I think I'll invite you for episode number 2. And you guys who are listening or watching the video on YouTube, comment below if you want Zainab to come back. I will bring her back whether you comment or not anyway, inshallah. But I'd love to know. I will put everything in the description box for people to find you, but where can they find you and how can they work with you?
Of course. So you can find me on Instagram. I work mainly on Instagram. My username is at heal grow glow underscore coaching. And the main thing, oh my God, there's so much you can do to get started even before you do one-on-one. But obviously my one-on-one is like the best place ever. But as I mentioned, every Fridays on my stories, we do this amazing challenge. I will break down a scenario. So like literally you will send like people submit a scenario like I was talking to this guy before Ramadan, we took a break, now Ramadan has ended and it's so awkward, no one is saying anything, how do I get back on track? Like these are the kind of real life POV scenarios we break down, and you guys get a really good chance to really write down what you would do in that situation and break that down. So we do that every Fridays on my Instagram stories. And of course you can listen to my podcast, and I'm sure it will be in the description box below, but you can find me on Apple Podcasts and Spotify under the podcast title Heal, Grow, Glow. I documented my whole journey from being single to getting married. It's so embarrassing, but it's really raw, and you can hear it all on season 1. And then on season 2, I've invited beautiful women like Sumaya and other ladies to really talk us through their own personal growth stories from unlocking their potential as a feminine woman. And finally, if you want to take it so much further, then you can work with me one on one. where I can teach you, and you can literally give me screenshots. My clients give me screenshots of their conversations and say, this is what he said. I'm really scared. And I will literally break down exactly how you are defensive, where you are nagging, and where you need to calm the hell down. And we break down why we break down why you're actually bringing those up through coaching. So I will say to you, you said this. Do you recognize why you're being defensive? And we break it down really, really deeply. And then you can join the clients who have actually got the ring, inshallah. But yeah.
Well, I think you're doing incredible work. May Allah bless you and increase you and
I mean,
grant you everything that you desire in this life and in the next, and reward you for every person that you help, and the ripple effect of you helping these women get married as well, which is going to be incredible. There's a lot of healing done here. It's not just about getting married. I can hear it. So thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for being such an inspiration. It's not embarrassing to share your journey. I think it's necessary. I'm sure that everyone who will listen to the podcast and relate will also feel the same way about the work that you do. Thank you so much, Zainab.
oh, Allahumma ameen. And may Allah protect all of us listening. May Allah really help all of the اللهم أصلح أحوال المسلمين في كل مكان. May Allah help every Muslim who is struggling around the world in any situation that they are. And may Allah really help us make every step that we take closer to Him.
Ameen, ya Rab. Ameen. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode, inshallah.
See you.